If the iPhone 7 had launched last year instead of the iPhone 6s, it would have easily been one of the very best phones of the year. But in 2016, is the iPhone 7 still a good buy? Hey, what's up everyone, CTNtechnologynews here, and in this video I'm going to be trying to answer that question. So the first thing you should know about the iPhone 7 is that it's really not that major of an upgrade. In the past, Apple's S releases, the iPhone 6s, the iPhone 5s, the iPhone 4s, all of those phones have been more incremental, and then the actual number changes have been pretty major upgrades. But the iPhone 7 feels more like a 6SS than anything else. Sure, it's got an improved home button, it's got a better camera, and it's got faster internals, but apart from that, there aren't really that many major changes that set it apart from its predecessor. Don't get me wrong, the iPhone 7 is a very good phone, and it definitely feels like the premium handset that it is, but I just wish that Apple had added something slightly more major to it. The biggest change in the iPhone 7 is the removal of the headphone jack, and this is definitely a bold move from Apple. It's one that could shake up the entire headphone industry. The loss of this port is going to impact users in varying degrees. For some people it's not going to be that big of a deal because they only use the AirPods in the lightning box, and those are still there just with a lightning connector. For others though, it's going to definitely be an inconvenience as they'll need to attach the short white dongle to the 3.5mm jack on the end of their headphones in order to plug them into the lightning port. If you lose that adapter, any standard pairs of headphones lying around your house are pretty much going to be useless. Now you'd think with the removal of the headphone jack, Apple would have made the iPhone 7 slightly thinner, but that's actually not the case. The iPhone 7 is the exact same thickness as the iPhone 6s, and I guess that's unsurprising given the upgrades that Apple has added, the new waterproofing, the new dual speaker, and then also the new Taptic engine under the hood. Now when it comes to the screen, Apple's gone for a 4.7-inch 720p display, which is actually the exact same screen that we saw on the iPhone 6 2 years ago, and that definitely does feel a little bit underwhelming given that the Galaxy S7 for instance features a QHD display. If you look at the two phones side by side, you'll definitely notice a difference, but with that said, if you just look at the iPhone 7 screen in its own right, it does deliver a pretty good viewing experience, and it's definitely not something that I'm complaining about. Now the home button on the iPhone 7 is another pretty big change. Gone is the clickable home button from years before, and what we've got instead is basically just a circular indentation that vibrates when you touch it. This is making use of that Taptic engine that I already mentioned, and while it feels somewhat like a regular home button, it doesn't feel exactly the same, and it's something that I'm still getting used to. It feels very futuristic, and technically it does protect the phone from damage, so maybe I'll get used to this over time, but for now it's just kind of a big change that I'm not entirely prepared for. Now speaking of what's going on underneath the hood, Apple's also upgraded the internals of the iPhone 7 as it always does. What we've got this time is an A10 Fusion processor, and that's actually quad-core, so rather than the dual-core processors from before, we've actually got 4 cores running simultaneously. 2 cores handle the heavy lifting, and 2 cores are more designed for basic tasks. They're designed to improve battery life and also just boost the efficiency of the phone overall. Needless to say, the iPhone 7 provides a very snappy experience. In comparison to the Nexus 5X, which was my previous primary phone, this feels just very fast and fluid, and it's something that I could definitely get used to. The speakers of the iPhone 7 have also been changed. We've actually got a dual speaker system this time round. There's a speaker up near where the camera is, and then also a speaker down at the bottom opposite where the headphone jack was. It appears like there are 2 speakers down at the bottom, but that's actually not the case. Where the headphone jack formerly was, there's just basically a set of dots. It's completely redundant, and there's no real reason for it except for aesthetics. The sound on the iPhone 7 does sound really good though. For listening to music or watching movies, you can definitely hear that the sound is going in 2 different directions, and it's definitely something that I appreciate. So I've talked about the iPhone 7 speakers, but what about the camera? Well, to be completely honest, the camera hasn't been upgraded a whole lot. There are no fancy new features like live photos, but it does take very respectable shots. The iPhone 7's pictures are brighter and clearer than those on the iPhone 6s, and I was very happy with the camera overall. Apple's also increased the low light capabilities of the iPhone 7's camera, which means that even if it's a very dim background, you should actually be able to take a very decent picture. For videos, for stills, for panoramas, for anything like that, I really don't think you're going to be too unhappy with the iPhone 7's performance. Now the last thing I want to mention is the iPhone 7's battery, which is definitely better than before, but again, iPhone 7s have never been that good on battery. Using the iPhone 7 all day, you'll probably find that you are getting into the red zone by the end of the day, having to turn on low power mode, And that can be a little bit of an inconvenience. It feels like, considering that Apple did remove the headphone jack, and considering that they did remove the home button, they should have had room to add a slightly bigger battery, but I guess we just basically have to take what we can get. So overall, the iPhone 7 is a pretty good handset. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is looking at getting a new iPhone, but for current owners of the iPhone 6s, I really don't think that it warrants an upgrade. The iPhone 6s has the headphone jack still, and really the only things that you're missing out on are the stereo speaker, the waterproofing, and the slightly better screen. To be clear, the iPhone 7 is definitely not a bad handset, but as I said at the beginning of this video, it's just not quite enough of a major upgrade that you really want to go out and spend a whole lot more money on a new phone. But with that said, give me your opinions on the iPhone 7 in the comment section down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and you're thinking about getting Apple's new phone. And with that said, I will see you next time.